Next, in local news, the Wayne County Commissioners are meeting once again at the Wayne County Airport this morning as they're conducting a two-day work session. A lot of topics on their agenda. This morning, they'll discuss the county's merit system as well as the 2022 budgets, the forecast for the 23 budget, and the 2022 tax digest, which they state is up significantly from last year. At Friday's workshop, the first topic was the SPLOST referendum, and as we reported last month, the county missed the deadline to have the SPLOST referendum ready to be voted on by the citizens this November. Several reasons why, time crunch being one. Cities of Jesup, Bowdoin, and Scrivener not on board with the proposed allocation of funds from the SPLOST, so without the referendum on the ballot, the county has to decide when it will appear before the voters. They have several options in front of them before the current SPLOST runs out in 2024. Here was County Administrator Ed Jeffers discussing those options with the county commissioners.
We didn't meet the requirements to put the SPLOST referendum on the November ballot. We just didn't have the time to do it. I told you it was a tight schedule. Just really could not negotiate allocation. So, we met everything, certified letter to the cities. The adoption of the purpose, I don't think the purpose was the issue, but the allocations between the cities was an issue. So with that, we just didn't have enough time to really negotiate a allocation. So, and that had to be 90 days before the election. So time frame expired and we just couldn't meet it. So SPLOST 5 will not start. What are the opportunities? Will not start before SPLOST 4 ends, right? So that means it starts potentially July 1st of 24. A year and a half away, a year more, a year and 8 months away. To meet this date, a referendum has to be on a ballot during the county-wide election before July of 24. The next scheduled county-wide election is March of 24. And that's the presidential preference election. There is a small election, I believe, next year for the city of Jesup. I don't know about other Scrivener, but the city has staggered terms, and I think some of them, a lot of them are on those next year up for re-election. So another option is the Board of Commissioners call for a special election. There are specific dates that a special election can be held, which are determined by the state in the fall prior to the year of the special election, i.e. this fall for next year. These dates are usually scheduled in March or November, but sometimes there's an additional date in June. The dates have not been set yet, so I don't have specific dates to give you. If the board...
What's the cost of a special election?
Poll workers, and I don't have a specific cost to you, but you have to have poll workers for every precinct, every polling place, and you have early voting out. You got to pay for the ballots, yeah. It's a chunk of change, Commissioner, but I can give you specifics later on. Or if y'all decide to move on the special election, a call for the election has to be done 90 days before the election. And negotiated purpose and allocation for the referendum for the SPLOST has to be adopted by the entities 30 days before the call of election.
And again, that was just part of the discussion about the SPLOST referendum. The key is that the referendum has to be sold to the public as the voters will decide its fate. Referendum has to be specific and tell the voters what the money is going to be used for, and we'll come back with that story after this word from our sponsor of the commercial messages, so please stay tuned. We continue with more of the county's work session. Again, SPLOST referendum, the big topic at the beginning of the meeting. The SPLOST not able to be on the agenda or not on the ballot this November as they missed the deadline. Allocation of funds was a big point of contention between the cities when they met to discuss the SPLOST referendum. As discussed, the county wanted more of the percentage of the SPLOST to help pay for the proposed judicial complex, which the county believes is needed to address the security issues. Jeffers pointed out that the city of Jesup received more of the percentage to help pay for their sewage treatment plant. And Jeffers says the need was there, and the city of Jesup received more of the SPLOST proceeds to help pay for that project. He says the county's asking for more this time around to help with the cost of the judicial complex. I asked the administrator if he felt that, one, the city of Jesup, Odom, and Scrivener are on board with the judicial complex, and two, if he felt that the Wayne County community was on board for the complex, because before the citizens vote on the referendum, it has to be in the referendum what the money raised will be spent on. Here was that question and discussion at Tuesday's work session.
Used for the courthouse complex. Is that still what the money's going to be used for? Because you have to put in the referendum to the people what the money's going to be used for them to vote on it. So is
That's
that
right, and the purpose of the allocation has to be voted and adopted by all the entities 30 days before. That's the part of it. The allocations from the county standpoint are the same allocations that are on the current SPLOST. Roads and streets. Instead of the GO bond paying, it would have been a judicial complex, and then public safety, fire, and recreation.
But have the cities agree to that? I mean, has that already been agreed
The cities have
upon?
their own, but they have to adopt, and here's what they spend it on over there, yes.
But my point again is you have to put what the money's going to be used for the people to vote on it. So
That's right.
you have the vote of the people, because as you said, the SPLOST is very important. If you lose the SPLOST, you lose a lot of revenue. So you think the public's in favor of supporting that SPLOST for the courthouse complex that you're saying is $41 million?
Give me the question again.
To put the referendum on a ballot, you have to put what the money's going to be used for in order for people to vote for it. So when you put that referendum on there, you're stating that the money's going to be used for that judicial complex. Do you think the community's going to vote for that SPLOST if it's going for that $41 million court complex, and have the cities of Jesup, Odom, and Scriven agree to that being put on the referendum?
Well, the cities don't have to agree to that, Bob. You missed the last work session, and I'm sorry. That's a county thing. The county can vote, put it all on that. The cities have their own purpose. The allocation, the percentage, or where that penny gets mixed up of, there has to be agreed upon too. The purpose, whether it's for judicial complex, recreation, all of those going on this SPLOST. And then the cities have to do the same thing. And then the allocation is where that money goes. To answer the question of whether the citizens are going to vote for it, I mean, that's everybody's got an opinion. Got to be sold. Got to be sold purpose-wise over there. We just didn't have time to do that on this for November and meet the allocations and the requirement to put that on the ballot. So I don't know if that answered the question.
Well, you said the allocation, see, that seems to be the problem, because that was the fight. The county said in order to get the judicial complex, they needed more money from the city, and the city's allocation was going to decrease.
I can talk to you on the sidebar about that, but I went through that last time too, and there's a difference of opinion, and it's just part of negotiations, and we just got to work some things out.
Again, all that at the work session yesterday at the Wayne County Airport. The work session continues this morning at 8 a.m. Other topics discussed yesterday on Tuesday, including an update on Lake Grace Dam, many public safety and transportation projects discussed. Once again, the work session continues this morning at 8 a.m., and we'll have more from the work session on Monday's newscast. We'll come back with a final news note after this word from our sponsor, the commercial messages, so please stay tuned. Final note of news, this is election year 2022. One of the key races in the state is that for state school superintendent. The Republican incumbent Richard Wood seeking his third term as state school superintendent. His opponent is Democratic candidate Alicia Thomas Searcy, a former Democratic state representative. Two held a public forum, and two have opposite views of the state's education system. Wood says the state school system emerged relatively unscathed after the tough pandemic time and is doing well. His opponent says the system is broken and needs a complete overhaul. Searcy says she finds politics to be ugly and divisive, but as a mother of three, felt the call to enter this race because she says the system is outdated and needs change. She cast her opponent Woods as lethargic and an insulated leader who's been away from the classroom too long to know what teachers need. Woods defended his experience and pointed out his record as superintendent, saying he's eased the burden on teachers by cutting the time they must spend being evaluated. He says he also helped open the door this year to retire teachers to work full-time so they can fill staffing shortfalls. Wood says once you're a teacher, you're always a teacher. He says teaching doesn't require technology or fancy catchphrases. He says teaching comes from the heart. And the event was held by the Georgia Public TV station, hosted by the Georgia Partnership for Excellence in Education, a research and policy organization. Once again, those two names on the ballot in November for state school superintendent, incumbent Republican Richard Woods and Democratic opponent Alicia Thomas Searcy. That's going to do it for latest in local news. Sports comes your way in a few minutes. Bob Morgan, have a great day.